Hey everybody, it's Jane Johnston with the Bar Hill Group at Remax Colson, host of Vancouver Island Time and Community Talks Daily at 4:30. Today we're here with Ann Squires Ferguson of, what's your company name?
Western Interior Design Group.
Awesome. So Ann was actually on my Vancouver Island Time talk. She's an amazing person. You're an avid runner. Are you still running right now?
Indeed. Yes, every morning, 5 a.m., Cedar Hill Golf Course.
Awesome. So is there a way to go where it's easier, clockwise or counterclockwise?
There are a lot of hills, regardless of which way you go, but we tend to run clockwise.
I used to run the run walk clinic out of there for the Times Colonists on Sundays for a few years, and I like those trails. So I'm guessing there's no golf going on right now, correct?
Apparently they reopened a couple of weeks ago, although when I'm there, no one else is there. Some birds, a lot of deer, and some very, very conversational ducks.
Okay, so tell us what Western Interior Design does.
We are a commercial design build company, so we're interior designers and general contractors.
So I've seen your work in a number of places, including some condo buildings that I've sold downtown. Where else are you doing work? I think you were with the new marina, right?
Right, we did Victoria International Marina, and that was a really lovely project. The site meetings were the best. We just got to hang out at the beach. And we do a lot of hospitality work. So we work on Hotel Grand Pacific, Pendray Inn. We did the most recent renovation at Vista 18 for Chateau Victoria. So once we're all allowed to go to restaurants again, people will be very excited to see that.
Okay, and then you have an interesting background, how you got into design. Do you want to tell us just a bit about it?
Sure, yeah. It's not the typical career path to interior design, I'd have to say. My initial foray into education, I actually have a degree in electromechanical engineering from Memorial University in Newfoundland. And I worked for the Canadian military, specifically the Navy. I was posted here to Victoria in the mid-90s. And well, it's Victoria, right? I got here and I stayed, never left.
Yeah, so same with me actually. 95 was my first foray into Victoria for teaching, and I thought, how can I stay here? And eventually I got into real estate. So with interior design, I'm assuming that you had contracts before all of this started.
Yes.
Have they continued on?
You know, for the vast majority, yes. And that's one of the benefits of having projects that can go on for 6, 8 months, sometimes a couple of years, depending on the scale of the project. We do maybe a third of our work in hospitality. And so those projects specifically were placed on hold. Typically the spring is a very busy time in hospitality, getting ready for the summer season and renovating. We do a lot of work with Holland America and Princess Cruises, and so yeah, their properties up in the Canadian North, in the Yukon, and those projects were paused initially and then canceled, unfortunately.
Okay, but what about the ones in Victoria? They're still going on?
Yeah, absolutely. And so the pace of construction has slowed because of social distancing on the sites, and we're ensuring that each trade is in and out of a space separately rather than layering multiple trades into a job site at the same time. It requires more management, and certainly the timeline has been stretched out, but the work continues, absolutely. And clients are very understanding, very accommodating. We all understand that this is an extenuating circumstance, and we're able to be flexible, be kind, right?
Be safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
So are you finding when you're doing your initial meetings with clients, how are you serving your clients' needs to ascertain what they want? And if you can't be there physically, or are you changing that now?
So just recently, so in the last week, we've started doing site meetings again. In terms of client meetings, initially we've transferred, so all of the staff are working from home. My kids were teasing me that it was the zombie apocalypse and we were all raiding the studio. And so we all have our desks and chairs and computers from the studio and taken them home. I also might have emptied the snack cupboard. And so snack size potato chips had to come home. They would have gone off. They would have gone stale.
Oh,
right?
sure.
And so the team is all working from home, and our clients have transitioned very smoothly to Zoom meetings. So we still have our meetings, we just conduct them virtual. And in terms of site visits, we did pause those for an extended period of time, and we picked them up just in the last couple of weeks with distancing, with sanitation, with masks and gloves, those sorts of things. But people are looking for forward momentum. They're looking for optimistic opportunities. And so the idea of designing something and building something, it's an exhilarating process. And we're excited to be able to continue to do those things in a safer way right now.
So what are the biggest challenges right now regarding redesigning spaces for clients?
The physical challenges, you mean, in the spaces? So certainly the idea of personal space, the floor, the footprint of every space, because as you know, with real estate costs go up. And so each person or each role allocates a smaller and smaller area. And what we're trying to do is get the same amount of productivity out of that square footage with far less people in it. And there are a number of tools we have at our disposal. Fortunately, there's an enormous amount of information that's coming from suppliers of office furniture or suppliers of plexiglass screens or suppliers of signage, even sanitation stations. All of those things are hitting the market really quickly. So we have a lot of tools at our disposal. One of the things that's particularly fascinating to me, and perhaps this is my background with engineering, is managing the flow of traffic. So we're working with Mayfair Optometric right now and helping them replan the flow of their clients through the space so that there's not that intersection, so that it's a one-way street.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah,
Keep going. I'm fascinated.
Yeah, me too. It's kind of like oceanographic currents. Like you come in, you get picked up, and then you follow that through, right?
Yeah. So I'm just thinking philosophically, everything has really changed for you then.
Yeah, it absolutely has. It's requiring, I find it exhilarating. It's requiring us to be evolving very quickly and putting ourselves in positions. I mean, we're usually the experts and we like to be the experts, and we're all in a place of not knowing right now. And that's when curiosity and creativity really blossom.
So this isn't related to COVID-19, but what's inspiring you right now?
You know, I've always had a love affair with textiles, and of course, you know, we look at things and appreciate them, but what we touch, you know, the clothes that we wear, the furniture that we sit on, these are the things that really trigger the deepest sensory experience. And textiles are, unfortunately, they can harbor a lot of germs. And so one of the things I'm fascinated right now is all of the opportunities for the textiles that are impermeable but still give you that feeling, that hand.
Like stone or something, or I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you know, what we're seeing is products like particularly textiles that were meant for healthcare, and so they were designed to be bleach cleanable, and now they're moving over into office design, and we're using those same textiles in very different applications, and that's, you know, allowing us to kind of stretch our minds. And how do we upholster a library tuckaway nook in a textile that was intended for an emergency room chair, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So what's happening in the broader design industry, and how is that supporting the public now?
I would say I have seen more free resources online from huge players in design and architecture and even a lot of the office furniture suppliers are making these incredible tools available to the general public. And so, Kazian out of Vancouver has an incredible like back to work guide that you just email their lead designer and she'll send it to you. And that is so heartening to me that they have the knowledge and they're just sharing it. And there's zero expectation of an exchange of value. And people are putting their hearts out saying, what do I have? What can I share?
It's goodwill, right?
It really is. Yeah, it's absolutely inspiring. Gensler is another incredibly large, well-known office supply and office design company. And they have one of the best back to work schedules that they've just, again, published for free.
So in terms of your business, how does that influence you?
I love it. It means that our clients are a lot better informed, right? And so the resources are there, and it means that I'm not duplicating the production of those things. And so I'm delighted to be able to send them the link or send them the relevant pages that are specific to their area of practice or whatever their business might be. And I'm able to reduce the time that we spend on a project because these incredible tools are available.
Okay, interesting. And do you find like what's happening in Victoria and how you're perceiving the changes, is that happening worldwide or is that happening across Canada?
To some extent, to a smaller extent, I would say we're incredibly fortunate in Victoria and on the island. We have such a vibrant, supportive business community. And when I talk to my counterparts, even in Vancouver, the scale is different. And so here, I'm personal friends with the vast majority of designers here on the island. And we share resources, we share knowledge. If someone needs support, someone else will pitch in. And I'm sure that that's true across a lot of sectors. It's not just interior design and construction. And so while the availability of resources is there across Canada and internationally, on the island, we do this. It's the Garden of Eden, right? We do have a really special thing going on here. And I hear from other people, they're just fascinated. They're like, but they're your competitors. Like, well, really, I don't see it that way, right? I see us all lifting one another up.
It's interesting you say that because in real estate, I've just been so impressed, especially by other Remax realtors, with just how they've really worked to help each other come up with plans on how to cope and one pagers on how to implement a listing, how to work with buyers. Really, really resourceful and just creative. Just amazing.
Right? And to say, hey, I had this challenge and this is what worked for us, and how do we help someone else with it? And say, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, use this tool.
Yeah, and plus I think that people are going to work with people who they're connected with anyway and connecting with. And so everyone has their own flavor. So, you may be chocolate and I like vanilla.
True enough. I love it. I think I'm dark chocolate.
So is the role of the professional interior designer changing? Are you helping? Are you like an analyst of space flow?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And I think what you're seeing now is there's always been, whether or not the general public recognizes it, there are different areas of practice for interior designers. And while over my 20 years in the industry, I have done a lot of residential, the reality is that commercial, healthcare, office, hospitality, I live in that sector. I have worked on industrial manufacturing facilities. I mean, we're just more on that technical side, and then there's the residential side. And so what we're seeing right now is people are reaching out to the appropriate professional. And so you're reaching out to someone who specializes in that. And for us, because we work in functional planning and do government work and large public organizations, that happens to be where we're moving a lot more quickly because we're being asked to. That's where the change is happening. Homes aren't seeing, there's a lot of work in the residential sector, and it's for a family at a time. And so we're not seeing that speed of evolution on the residential side.
Right. Okay. So I'm just looking here. There's a comment here. I just asked my assistant to add your interview for Vancouver Island Times so they can see how you work, because we had a fabulous interview before. So that's why I may have looked a little distracted. But Suzanne has worked with you. So what changes do you see in the hotel bedrooms now? So the other day she was talking about the fact there's going to be have to be less cleaning now.
Absolutely.
Between like night overnight, if you're staying for 7 days, there's probably not going to be somebody coming in every day, I'm thinking.
No. So what we're looking for, and I love that question. For years, we worked with Suzanne at the Oswego, and then with another consulting business of hers as well. And that's a wonderful question, because we're figuring it out. And so a lot of the detailing where a premier suite would have, reveals. And so a reveal is where two materials meet and you put a gap in, and it looks beautiful. Designers love them. They're very sculptural. But we're moving away from reveals. We're moving to slab fronts. We're moving, because any groove like that can harbor those bacteria or viruses, right? We're moving to wipeable or bleach cleanable surfaces. And so the textile headboards that were very popular for a period of time, those are going to be a thing of the past, particularly with button tufting, where the button tufting pulls the textile in, and you can't necessarily get a full disinfectant on each one of those ridges. So we're seeing things like that. We're also seeing a perception of cleanliness change, which is associated with light levels. So typically we would go to what's called a 2700 Kelvin, which is a very warm light. It kind of bathes you in candlelight. We all look fabulous in 2700 light. And we're looking at taking that up to 3000 or 3500, because the light is bluer and there's a perception of a more hygienic environment. And so we're seeing a little bit of movement there. Those are the sorts of things. Also, furniture is built on a base so that the base can be cleaned. You're not going to be able to have things end up deep underneath a bed or a chair. You're not going to be seeing that, right? There'll be a solid.
But I'm just thinking though, for beds and furniture, you need to have the airflow, because otherwise you're going to get mold issues.
Yes, and so there'll still be airflow, and we do that in a number of different ways. We can do that with perforations. We can do that, right? And so, but what that has is that airflow without the possibility of a dirty mug rolling under, or right, and so we can block it up, right? The other option is to lift things dramatically higher and have a very thick, like a glass top desk with a metal leg, so that you can do a full steam clean underneath. That's one change that hasn't hit yet, but I do expect it to, is we'll probably be moving away from some of the carpeted hotel rooms and into a hard surface, so that those can be steam cleaned in between clients.
That's very interesting. What about the carpet tiles in the hallways and stuff, that trend?
Carpet tile in hallway, I don't see that going away, particularly because they can be swapped out. Now, there are carpet tiles that are on the market. One of them that I presented at the trade show here earlier this year is impervious to moisture, and so you get the softness that's associated with carpet tile, but you can actually deluge clean it. So you could literally dump a bucket of water on it and vacuum it up, and you would pull all of the dirt out, and the carpet would be no worse for wear. So I am trialing that product. So I have ordered 12 of the tiles and turned them into a carpet in our rec room. And so if the 10-year-old twins can destroy it, then no project will get it. But so far, it has proved impervious to the children. So we'll see. On a trial.
It's like an IKEA test, right? The chair.
How bad can it be, right? Pretty bad is the answer. Yeah.
Do you see any other changes happening in how people live or work or play?
I think we'll be more intentional in our connection. And so that's one of the things. We're in the midst of building a tech office right now over in Dockside Green. And it's for an international company. And what they said was they're discovering that they don't need to come to work. And so what are we going to do to make them want to come to work? And that the intentional connection, taking the time to stop and be face to face and interact with one another, because now we're seeing how much value it has, right? That emotional connection, that buy-in. So much of what we do is trying to create a microcosm of connection, and now it's visible in a way that perhaps it hasn't been previously.
That is so interesting to me because uh, in real estate, we don't have to go into the office, and it's a different type of agent that goes in
Yes.
for the social. Like initially, when you get into the business, you're going in a lot because you want to connect with people and be influenced, and then you tend to move out. And then I like to go back in because then I'm focused. I mean, you should see my desk here. It's terrible. Because I'm totally unfocused. I'm distracted all the time by my family. So I think, if you can provide a nice, calm, safe environment, I think also perhaps we're a bit. You talk a lot about the cleanliness, and I'm wondering if we're just a bit obsessed. It,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
And
there's
that,
a necessity for things to be clean, right?
yeah,
But
that pendulum will swing and we'll learn more, right? We all, as a society, know a lot more about epidemiology than we did 3 months ago, right? Bizarrely more. And so we're learning and evolving very quickly. And there are going to be things that we do right now that we look back on even in 6 months and say, oh, how quaint, right? We thought that mattered, right? But that's the beauty of trying to make things better, is that we win some and we lose some.
yeah. Okay, we have a question from Carolyn here. What about window treatments? If you guys have any other questions about where design is going, by the way, feel free to ask. We're here. Okay, so what about window
What
treatments?
about window treatments? Well, unfortunately, those magnificent swags of cut velvet are probably a thing of the past. I have to say they're going to
Yay.
lot. Yeah, as a realtor, you're like, oh, thank goodness. I have to say, I'm fond of some strange things, and I think it's because there's so much of a time and place. And so the velvet swag curtains and the chandeliers over the bathtub, and there's a spot in my heart that just like pitter pats when I see those things. But yeah, so we're seeing that opulence go away, and the price tag may not necessarily go down because we're spending more on the technical side and the R&D side to make sure that it performs in that way. We have, over the last decade, I would say, seen a dramatic shift in window coverings already. So we're already on a journey there where we're doing, more and more perforated sunshades, and it's the absence of window coverings is what people are after. And then we're just managing glare, or we're managing privacy, or some things we're moving away from window coverings altogether and moving towards, on the commercial side, moving towards window films. And so you're protecting from the glare and from the lack of privacy, but you still are able to look out. And so there's some really great technical products on the market. So we do see that happening now. There are certain properties, and I think about, the Empress or the Union Club, or where there's always going to be a market for that opulence, and where that exists, there will be more creative solutions. We're probably not going to have them pooling on the ground, for instance. We may have more decorative pelmets, they're called, which is where we're decorating just at the top of the window and we're not bringing it down the sides or onto the floor. So it's not where you could physically touch it. And so those sorts of things. And we may also see some more dramatic interior framing. So if we're not able to hang a really expansive drapery solution, maybe we're framing that out with timber, or maybe we're like giving it some sense of presence with other tools at our disposal.
Is art changing then?
It guaranteed it will. It's fascinating. So color has a really interesting path, and art follows color.
Hmm.
And so color prediction is very related to optimism and the idea of comfort and the idea of home. And the color trends follow that. So when we're feeling insecure and in need of comfort, then the colors become more traditional and slightly broken. So you see your brick reds, you see your navy blues, and you see those colors that have kind of a heritage feel to them. And then when we're kind of thriving and optimistic, you see the spring green and the coral, and right, and there's a lift to them. And so we were very much in that lift, and now very suddenly we're being swung back. And so I'm curious to see how that lands, because typically color trends take much longer. They're over many years, and it's not usually that fast of a shift. So I'm curious to see where that goes.
And what about texture of art as well? I'm thinking it'll be more the clean lines, contemporary look.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. If people, I'm a great believer in local art. But the piece behind me is one of my favorites, of the local artist Sandra Frower. And so I'm a great believer in art that means something to you. I see you have some really distinctive pieces behind you as well. And we choose them because they resonate with us. And so that's always my first piece of advice, is find something that resonates with you, and then help it fit into the environment, rather than finding something that resonates with the environment but you have no personal connection to.
Interestingly, this picture here behind me, and I have 4 behind me, but this one represents community. That's the title of it. So I just find it so ironic that I didn't even look at the title when I bought it. I just like the picture, but that's just who I am, right?
Of it, right? And it made sense to you visually. You said, yes, that works for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I'll show you my other pictures. See, I'm in an interesting room because I'm in a rectangular room with a square light, and I had no idea what I was going to put here. And then I have these round lights coming in, so I'm like, okay, this is the only thing. It just fits.
It's hilarious. My husband calls our house the living lab, where I am always trialing my new ideas, some of them more or less successful. Painting out the children's floor in matte black was one of my less successful ideas. Call that a learning experience.
Oh well, it's
Yeah.
neat.
Yeah,
Okay, so what can we all do to make the world a better place?
what do you have to give? What do you have to give? Right. And that's, what resonates with me and with our staff. We're donating blocks of our time, subsidized design time, out to the community, helping people plan for when they reopen, or rework their floor plan, or set up better screening devices, whatever it is. And so we have creativity and innovation. And that's always my challenge, is, what do you have to give? And I know you're incredibly engaged, and I would say that to the public as well. What do you have to give? Right? Sometimes the listening ear.
Yeah, I find that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's being present.
Pardon?
Sometimes it's just being present. Right?
Well, and I find it's just been so interesting to see how different people have responded differently, and come up and with so many innovative ideas. Tara's community, online community about what's open, and just like learning through this. This is the whole part of this broadcast, is to help people see how innovative people have become, and just creative thinking and problem solving. And what kills me is when I see those plastic sheets with the 2 armholes. Where you can go up and hug your grandma or whatever, that people are putting on doors. Have you seen those?
Yeah, totally.
I just, yeah.
Yeah, it's have a time.
Yeah, people just need to keep in touch, and I think the fact that you're subsidizing design is amazing, and I think that businesses will need that, and they'll need a fresh new face, and
Mhm.
you're the person to provide it.
Yeah, well, it's exciting. It gives us an opportunity to be out in the community and be moving forward into whatever that looks like and feel like we're engaged with the community, whether we're sitting at home alone or not.
Exactly. Okay, so best way to get in touch with you, 250-884-7660.
Yep, that's my cell. We're not in the studio right now, so if you call that, you will get me. And and yeah, email always works. So you can text me. We're easy to find.
Okay, awesome. So you can go to westerninteriordesign.ca or text Ann at with no E at westerninteriordesign.ca. And we have put in the Vancouver Island Time interview. So if anybody is interested in seeing the interview and Ann's office and how they come up with their designs and all their ideas, pretty cool. And that's at vancouverislandtime.com. Thank you so much.
So much, Jane. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I really enjoyed chatting with you. And as usual, very impressed with what you've done. And I look forward to seeing your work in the future. Stay tuned. Tomorrow night at 4:30, we're going to be talking with our co-parenting, separation, and divorce crew. They're going to be here. We're going to be talking about what's happening now that everything's starting to open up and how families are adapting. And then later on in the week, if you're interested in being a part of the show, just message me at briarhillgroup@gmail.com. All right, have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.